That doesn't look pleasant. Why would anyone pay for this? What's going on? Welcome to the Hair Transplant YouTube channel, where I discuss my hair restoration journey. Throughout these videos, I'll discuss some of the questions and concerns that I had as I was making this decision. So hopefully I'm able to provide some great content, answer some questions, and feel free to drop a comment below. I'll do my best to get back to everybody who has a serious question. So first question is why? Why get a hair transplant? Yeah, so when I first noticed, my hair loss, I was probably like 19, 20 years old, pretty much in doubt, like, no, this is way too young for this to already be happening, but it was happening for sure. And at the time, like, I remember, again, I'm 19, 20 years old, seeing like one of those Bosley commercials thinking, yeah, that's gonna be me pretty soon. But first off, I didn't have the bands for that, the money. I already knew it was gonna cost like thousands of dollars back then, so I didn't even consider it. I remember like going to the like Walgreens or something, like buying volumizer shampoos, which did nothing at all because I was trying to get my hairline back, and that helped nothing, didn't do anything for me. So that quickly went into the trash can. So for pretty much most of that time, in my early 20s, man, I just kept wearing hats and do-rags. I think most people thought like, oh, he's just trying to look cool, but no. All right, yeah. So what finally, made me take hair restoration serious, man? I was just ready for a new look. I think I was rocking the ball dude pretty confident, but just didn't want to anymore. So yeah. All right. So the first place I contacted was actually a hair restoration clinic, not too far from me, like 10 minutes away. So I was pretty excited, making the call, getting the appointment, driving to the office, and just excited just to meet, the doctor and hear what they could do. Cause I was on YouTube and stuff like that, and on TikTok and Instagram, and saw all these great success stories and thought, maybe I'm going to be one of those, right? Anyways, so get to the clinic and meet the receptionist. She's super nice. They offer you drinks and water and things like that. And I was just ready to, get started, like tell me what can we do, So I'm there for like 30, 40 minutes, and we're talking about, Norwood scales and, my history, my family history, medical history, all that stuff, And the entire time though, like the doctor like never comes out. Like she goes to go get him, and still he doesn't come out. She comes back out and she tells me like, oh, the doctor feels that though, they don't have a lot of experience with your hair type. So I was like, okay, I'll read between the lines on that one. Kind of just like said, thank you, and, left. So yeah, after that first visit was just a complete letdown. Found another place online, filled out the intake form, got an appointment, had a Zoom call with them. And, they were asking me to send over photos and did all that stuff, and pretty much had that call. And then they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we don't think you have enough donor area to do the procedure. So, that was pretty quick phone call, ending in another, unsatisfied or dissatisfactory result. Yeah. So then the third place I called, also found online, they also said that I didn't have enough donor area, and said that I should consider another service that they do at their clinic, which is micropigmentation. I think there might be another term for that. Let me look it up real quick. Micropigmentation or microblading. All right, yeah. And the fourth place I contacted, also found them online. They didn't blow me off immediately. They were pretty good on response time, but pretty much our communication stopped when I saw that they had an invoice of $28,900, 28900. So I wasn't sure what this procedure was really going to cost me, but I knew that seemed absurd. And they were saying like how, oh, we have end of year specials. If you can make a deposit, we can give you some discounts. But I was just thinking, I don't think we can get from nearly $29,000 to something that I would want to pay. So yeah, I don't know how we ended up getting on this topic, but I was talking to my sister. That's kind of telling her, the trials that I had gone through trying to find a doctor. And she was like, oh, yo, like, I know somebody who actually did this. And I was like, really? Like, who? And long story short, it was one of her friends and her boyfriend. And so, you know, she hit her up, and her friend sent photos over. And I'm like, yo, where'd they get this done? And then, you know, she said Turkey. And I was like, Turkey? I had heard about this, you know, this like Turkey, people going to Istanbul, you know, for, you know, surgeries or medical procedures. But, you know, I never thought like I'd be one of them. Just, you know, like halfway across the planet, you know. So then started Googling, you know, hair transplants, Turkey, and was just like overwhelmed with the amount of information and access and frequency at which this was being done over there. And so it was really just like filtering all that down first, right? So reached out to a few places through WhatsApp, of all things, right? You know, I was using WhatsApp for like group chats and Madden and stuff like that, but never medical procedures. But yeah, after that research that I had done, and you know, just seeing how frequent and how accessible it was over there, I was pretty like blown away and almost like overwhelmed, because it was just like, wow, like this is like a regular everyday thing over there. You know, like I think I was watching something and they were saying like they do like, it was like close to 10,000 a day. I don't know, but a lot, a couple thousand. So from there, it was just, you know, researching places, you know, making sure that, you know, the place was legit, certified, clean, had good results, good reviews, you know, reputable. I just wanted to make sure I just wasn't, you know, flying over there, you know, pretty blind. I was trying to make sure that I knew as much as I could before I got there. So what I cared about really was success, cleanliness, you know, historical results. You know, had they seen this hair type before, which for them, they were like, yeah, of course. Yeah. So like after I had like pretty much knew I was gonna go, knew where I was gonna go, had already made my deposit and bought my plane tickets, it was just like that mental buildup of like, oh man, like I'm doing this, and if I don't, well, you know, I lost my deposit. I mean, probably not, you know, considering the risk, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, you know, still something that was in the back of my mind. So the only other question like I had, yeah, even leading up to the surgery was like what type, because, you know, as I was doing more research after I had done like hours and hours of research, you know, I had heard about like, you know, there's FUE, but then there's also DHI. I'll probably do a whole video on what DHI is, but let's just say it's in the same category of FUE, but different tools. And then in the end, you know, I was looking up like, what's the difference? Is one better than the other? Does one have better success than the other? Is one heal better than the other? And it turned out that, you know, the healing is a lot faster with DHI because it combines some of the steps into one. But, you know, like I said, I'll probably do a whole separate video on what that is and how that works. But in the end, you know, everything that I had found said that it doesn't matter if you go basic FUE or DHI, it, you know, matters on the skill of the surgeon. So I just wanted whoever doing it to do what they were most comfortable with. So like, yeah, I wasn't really concerned like what people here were gonna think. Like if there was anything though, like I was like, oh man, like I was really like, how am I gonna like look in the airport? Like, is my head gonna be like bloody and like crusty? And truthfully, like in the end, I didn't really notice anyone even looking. So I was probably thinking about it way more than anybody else was. Yeah. So as far as concerns I had leading up to it, it was just more like, you know, staying in contact with my family while I was there, because I initially was planning to go with a family member, but you know, life happened, situation changed, so I had to go by myself. Plus that plane ticket was no joke for price either, so I don't blame them. Yeah, so yeah, the only other concern I really had was, you know, staying in contact with my family while I was there, you know, making sure that they knew that I was safe and things like that. So I have another video on things I did while I was there to kind of maintain that, such as, you know, staying in cell phone reception areas, which was easy. Mint Mobile, International Plan, $10, work package arm. So if there's anything I would tell like someone else considering this who might be on the fence, you know, do your research, ask questions, don't believe everything on Reddit. Yeah, there's some a-holes on there, but for the most part, the various hair groups, you know, most of the people are giving their honest opinion, you know, documenting their results, things like that. Yeah, so for anybody, you know, on the fence or thinking about it, what would my advice be? It would be, yeah, man, do your research, man. Do your own research as much as you can. Call places, compare prices, you know, maybe you'll find a doctor quicker than I did. But also, you know, the main thing is to, you know, manage your expectations, such as how long have you been going bald or losing your hair, how many grafts or can you know, get transferred, how much money you have to work with, which is also a big factor of where you're gonna go to get it done, because you can get it done in the States, you can get it done overseas, and the prices are gonna vary widely, largely, just on those two factors alone. Again, managing expectations, you know, this is not instant results. For me, this is actually right now in this video, this is me 1 month out. I don't think I've experienced too much shedding or anything like that. So, you know, pretty good. It's still not growing at like full rate yet though. I still think that's maybe a few months away, but slow and steady, I'm not in a rush. Like I'll do some other videos on like the day after procedure, you know, flying back home, things like that. This was just like a introductory video to, you know, what ultimately led me to make that decision.